Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. In today's video, we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic, which is using AI in education. Right? More specifically, how artificial intelligence is reshaping three things. Right? One, student attention. Two, character development. And three, talent discovery. Right? So we are going to look at from young, the student in primary school, and then grows up a little bit to be the student in secondary school, and then eventually as a young adult, how is AI, right, going to shape our students. All right, so let's first start by looking at the attention span of primary students. Of course, through the video, I will also try to share my own personal experiences to see whether what is listed in the slides are true or not. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the impact. Well, AI-driven apps and content platforms are designed for instant reward cycles. So they want instant gratification. When people use the apps, they use the content that is driven by AI, they want to see instant results. They're not going to wait around, right, for a long time, right, in order to see the results. So what we can see nowadays is short form videos taking off, right? Your TikTok, your Instagram, gamified learning, right? And even the gamified learning is not the long form exploration kind of games, right? It's a very short, instant reward type of games. AI personalized content that reduce the tolerance for deep focus, right? So in effect, what's happening to the attention span is that it is shrinking, okay? And children, but they grow up from a very young age and they think that they can get results just like that in the next 5 or 10 seconds or 30 seconds, right? They want the answer to be given to them instantly, right? And they are very used to that, and as a result, they have very little tolerance and they are very impatient, right, for results, right? They're not going to sit around. Okay, so children, they become more accustomed to constant stimulation, and that makes traditional reading and listening harder, right? So as a language tutor, that creates a lot of challenges for myself, all right? Because I do agree to a large extent that I've been teaching for about 10 years, and as the years go by, I keep getting new students, and I find that it's getting slightly more and more challenging to just get them to sit still and make them read something and have them listen to what is being said or what the tutor is saying. Okay, so this can affect their learning, and it can also affect their behavior in class. So here are some quick examples, right? AI learning apps that adapt difficulty every 10 to 20 seconds, and 10 to 20 seconds, that's a very short time, right? But developers are riding the trend, right? This is the trend. The kids grow up in this world, they grow up in this environment, so they're going to make apps and games, okay, that according to them, suit the attention span of these kids, right? So videos, short form videos, right? The learning apps every 10 20 seconds, right? YouTube short form algorithms feeding endless recommended videos. We see this all the time, right? Not just on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram. Everywhere is short form videos. Chatbots, right, giving instant answers instead of encouraging thinking. Well, I don't think it's the developers meant for the chatbots to encourage the user to think. All right. Instead, the chatbots are meant to help the user accomplish certain specific goals in as short a window as possible. Right. In other words, they are trying to help the user save time, right? It's a productive tool. So unless the chatbots are trained specifically as an educational chatbot, right, then maybe they will not provide the answer so quickly. So those chatbots are more inclined to just encourage the students to think further, right? So but the attempt and the intention behind those chatbots have to be very clear, right? And when students use the chatbots, they need to have the right expectation that they are not supposed to just receive the answer as if the God gave them the answer. Chatbots become their God, right? And so that they don't have to think, all right? And they grow very lazy in thinking. So what's the implication, right? So we understand that, well, their attention becomes fragmented, not trained. Fragmented means one thing they are looking at this, and when you try to have a proper conversation with them, before you know it, they're off on another tangent. All right. So the children may struggle with patience, delayed gratification, and sustained concentration. Right. I think these are the problems that all parents, tutors, and teachers, right, they are facing at the same time. Okay. So then the question becomes, how do we deal with them going forward? Because as far as I can see, this problem is here to stay. These challenges are here to stay. They are not going away, and they might even become worse as people get more and more used to tools like AI, right? And these tools become more powerful. They become part and parcel of their lives. How about character building? Well, the impact of character building, when you have reduced struggle, right? All the answers being spoon-fed to them, okay, by AI. Okay, naturally that leads to reduced resilience. All right, they don't have to go through that hardship. Okay, so AI removes productive frustration, right? The trial and error learning, right? And the students just get the answer almost instantly. Okay, and this over reliance on AI weakens the independence of the child and as well as their responsibility, because, well, everything, the answers, right? How to solve problems, how to make certain decisions, they all rely on the AI. So therefore, they don't see it as their own personal responsibility to get things right. Why do I need to do that, right? The AI can do everything for me. So here are some examples of the application that students use, right? The homework auto completion tools. We have AI generated answers, and this replaced their effort, right? So parents using AI tutors instead of guided learning, right? So the kid is seated in front of the chatbot, okay, and doing their learning and having the AI teach them. So they learn from young that the AI can help them do a lot of work on their behalf, so they don't have to do it, right? So what's the implication on their character itself? So most of the time, the children are exposed to these AI tools, right? The AI do the problem solving, the AI does the teaching. So they may grow up efficient, yes, because they can use these technological tools, but mentally they may be fragile, right? Smart but less resilient, less persistent, less self-driven, right? And let me quickly explain, I think, what it means, right, when we say smart over here, right? I think we need to be a little bit more specific. When we say smart, maybe only tech smart, right? They are more, the new generations, they are really very savvy with the tools. That's the tools that they grew up with, the social media, the short form videos, where when you search for answers, right, the answers are given to you in a 30-second, 1-minute video. You don't have to sit around to understand, maybe a science concept or a math concept, or maybe even an English grammar rules, right? And sit through a 30-minute, 60-minute video. They just don't have the patience, right? So this smart itself is, I think, a very limited in that sense. Okay. Now, in terms of talent discovery, we can use AI for talent discovery. So what the AI do is the AI identifies strengths very early through data patterns, right? So AI is really very good, okay, when it comes to working with data, analysis, spreadsheets, and so on and so forth. After all, it's a computer, it's a machine, right? All right, but early labeling can limit exploration, because if you identify the strengths too early in primary school students, then you may not want to explore other areas of interest. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when I teach my students, whether they're primary school or secondary school, my teaching is to never stop exploring your interests, all right? So as human beings, right, we are organic beings, and our interests do change with time, do change with age, right? So we should not put ourselves in a box, right? And then just rely on the AI to tell us our strength, and then we limit our exploration. Maybe we want to, we have a hidden talent somewhere, all right? That is, or maybe we are a late bloomer, right? That discover our talent later in our adult life, all right? So, but if we stop exploring, then that never happens, okay? So do not have this over reliance on the AI, but you can use it as a supporting tool, right? To maybe give you an inkling, give you some idea of what are the early strengths, and then from there, continue the exploration. So here are some examples. So AI platforms, they tag students as math strong or language weak. And once the students believe that, like for example, language weak, then it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy and they're not going to work hard. I'm weak anyway, so why do I need to put in effort in language, right? But what if they are a late bloomer, like I mentioned, all right? So algorithmic learning paths are narrowing exposure, okay? So from a young age, I think exposure is really important. Exposure to not just the different subjects, but life experiences in general, right? Students, kids need to expose themselves to as many different areas as possible, right? So that this will spark their curiosity, right? They learn about the world, they are more aware of what is happening around them, and also help them with their talent discovery, right? So in the process, maybe they discover some interest, right, in a particular subject, right? Maybe aviation, maybe space exploration, right? Maybe it could even be tech, like in AI, right? Who knows? Okay. So what's the implication, right? So the talent is detected early, but curiosity may shrink. You may think that, oh, all right, this is my profile. I'm language weak, I'm maths weak, science strong, etc. And then you stop the exploration, and that is not a good thing. So I think what we want to do is just to teach the children that it's always good to keep exploring, right? I try to tell my students that even at my age, I try to be curious about stuff in general, right? I try to keep abreast of what's happening in the news, what's happening to AI, right? So it's always learning, right? Always being curious, so that we don't rely just on the AI to tell you that, hey, this is your talent, this is your strength, and that's it, put you in a box, okay? So now our primary school student has grown a little bit, okay? They're now secondary school students, right? So what happens to their attention span? Well, multitasking culture intensifies, right? So as a secondary school student, they probably have more subjects to deal with. Instead of 4 subjects, they could have 7, 8 subjects, right? If those, I don't know, I think some take third language, right? Maybe even 9 subjects, right? I'm not sure, okay? And then now they have a stronger need to use the tools, right? In order to cope with the subjects, right? So the AI tools enable shortcut thinking. All right, instead of spending the time sitting down to try and understand the subject, they use the AI tools to generate the answers, right? Dopamine-driven content trains surface level processing. Okay, so same issue here as while they were in primary school, they can see the results can happen so quickly, right? So when they go to secondary school, they don't think there's a need to prolong that thinking process. Just give me the answers right now. So if you are given a problem, they may not have the patience to sit around and try to work through the problems themselves, okay? Instead, they rely on the AI tools that are available to them, right? So as a result, when I teach essay or general paper even, I do find it more and more challenging to get students to apply critical thinking, because maybe they don't see that there's a need anymore. Right, most of the time when they write essays, discursive essays, for example, right, pros and cons of sports, pros and cons of social media, questions like that, they tend to just be able to list surface level points, right? Just go through very basic pros and cons. And if I want them to go one step further and evaluate the points that they have just made, they hesitate, right? They stammer, and they are unable to do it, and that is not a good sign. All right. So here are some examples, right? They use AI to summarize, right? O levels, N levels, you have to do summary instead of reading, right? AI essay generators, right? Some just think that I cannot write, right? Some can't even form proper sentences. Can you believe it, right? So let's have the computer do everything for me, right? Again, you have these algorithmic fits, right? Replacing long form learning, okay? So everything long form is gone, okay? So short form, right? And the implication, right? Students become very fast processors, but shallow thinkers, right? They are good at scanning, but weak at deep reasoning, right? Just everything on the surface. Well, I think going forward, that is not a good thing, all right? Because you're weak at deep reasoning, you do not understand how things work, right? And as a result, you can't make quality decisions, right? As a full-grown adult, okay? But what about character building? The impact, moral development is affected by ethical outsourcing, right? So from the perspective of the student, what that means is that they want to outsource their homework, right? But there is some kind of a moral judgment involved, right? What do you mean by outsource your homework? And can you do it ethically, right? And they might have a problem trying to make that decision, right? Because some students may just decide that, plagiarism is copy somebody else's work. But if I use AI to do it, then that's not plagiarism, right? So then it's a bit confusing, right? And it affects their moral development, okay? So for these students, integrity becomes negotiable when AI can do the work. So values maybe take a second seat, right? Depending on the situation. If AI can help me, well, we can forget about integrity, okay? Let's just outsource the work to AI, all right? That's what is happening. Here are some examples, right? AI assisted cheating, okay? They even come up with schemes. Scheme with the AI. AI become, the accomplice, right, in the cheating scheme. Ghostwriting assignments, having AI to write all the assignments, complete all the assignments, AI generated reflections and journals. So the reflections are very personal. And when I started teaching 10 years ago, I think reflection is a big part of my teaching as well. When primary school students, not even secondary school, right, they are taking PSLE and they're writing compositions, I do encourage them to do some personal reflections, right? But nowadays, students just ignore this reflection altogether. So what do you mean by reflection? Or even if they do a reflection, is on the surface level, right? They don't internalize the learning. They just do a reflection for the sake of writing, being able to write something. Okay, so that's surface level, right? And that's not good. So what's the implication, right? Character formation shifts from effort to efficiency, right? So values like honesty, perseverance, discipline, they weaken, right? And these students, because all the values itself, they take a second seat now, right? So what is the priority? The priority is the efficiency, right? I mean, I just want to get my grades. That's all. Full stop, right? Who cares about values, right? Things like patience, okay? Who cares about patience? I want my short form video right now, all right? Okay, now let's talk about talent discovery. So secondary level, I think some people may argue that primary school, you may be too young, you're still exploring. But what about secondary school students? My opinion is that they're still young. Many of them, when I ask them whether they know which course they want to go to, which course they want to choose, they don't know yet. But AI can help, right? AI helps to identify certain academic strengths, right? But the creativity and non-academic talents become undervalued, right? Because the AI cannot see a student dancing, for example, right? And AI cannot accurately value a child's ability to draw, for example, right, in art. So these talents may be undervalued or even neglected if we just take the opinions, right, of AI seriously, okay? So we do need to understand that is the limit of the AI in terms of numbers, academic strength. Yeah, the AI tool can help, but there are other areas that, maybe the child is very good with his or her hands, right? The AI doesn't know that, okay? Here are some examples, right? Algorithm-based academic streaming, right? If AI is used to do the streaming itself, AI recommending subject pathways, the AI do everything, they do the recommendations, portfolio building via AI tools, all right? So even your own portfolio, you go and ask the AI to suggest what to do, all right, instead of you being in control, being in command, to do what you want, to actively explore your interests, right, and then build a portfolio based on your own personal interest, right? And everything ties together, right? Sometimes for talent discovery, you do have to do some reflections, right? You can go out and explore all you want, right? But if you never come back and reflect about your experiences, then you may never discover anything, right? So go out and explore, and at the same time, do some reflections, right? That would be very helpful. So what's the implication, right? So talent becomes measured and not discovered, right? And students are optimized, not explored, right? So notice that the students are becoming more like the machines, okay? No longer treated like humans if we rely too much on the AI output, the AI recommendations, right? So use the AI recommendations. I'm not saying don't use them, right? Use it, right? It's a tool, it's there. It can provide a little bit of an idea, right? If you're lost, maybe they can provide some suggestions, but don't just believe, right, in those conclusions wholesale, right? Don't just believe in the decisions blindly, right? You need to use your own human thinking to go through the recommendations, okay? Okay, now the secondary school students grown up further. We are talking about post-secondary, right? Poly, JC, tertiary education, right? What happens to their attention span, right? The impact, over the years, they have developed this dependency on AI for thinking, as if it's a drug. They're addicted to the AI. They cannot do without the AI, right? And this means reduced cognitive endurance. Their attention span itself has been trained over the years to be just short form, and they find themselves, they just cannot concentrate for a prolonged period of time. Lower tolerance for ambiguity and complexity. So anytime you have a difficult piece of work, for example, comprehension, you get a very long piece of, passage, right? A long passage, or even multiple passages, right? In general paper nowadays, you have 3 passages, not 2, okay? So, and then they can't sit still and analyze the text. They just don't have the patience and the concentration for it, all right? So that means they've hit their ceiling, right? That they've hit their limits. And maybe they can still do well for N-levels, O-levels, but once you go to post-education, they start to have problems, right? And then, me as the tutor, a teacher, I say, I give them advice, right? But what happened to their listening skills? Remember, right? They just don't have the patience to listen. They don't listen very well. So as a result, they don't learn, right, from me, right? They don't learn, they don't heed the advice, and the grades do not improve. And somehow some parents, or maybe even the student themselves, just point their finger and say, yeah, it's your fault, Mr. Chow. But all this is happening, right? And it doesn't, it's not just overnight, right, that this happened, right? And it happened over weeks, months, years of exposure to these tools, and that's the development of the child. Here are some examples, right? They use AI for their research synthesis. They use AI for decision making. They use AI for writing, planning, analysis, etc. So again, an over-reliance on AI too. Without the AI, they can't plan for the essay. They don't know what hypothesis to use for the whatever paper that they are writing. Okay, they cannot make any decisions on their own because they trusted AI their whole lives. All right, and as young adults, they have lost the ability to make decisions for themselves. Okay, and the implication, well, the humans shift as young adults from thinkers to supervisors of machines. So now their sole responsibility is just to make sure that the AI is working and that they know how to operate the AI. So one day, if the internet is down, I don't think they can do anything because they have not trained themselves to think. They cannot solve problems on their own. They need the AI, right? And you given a complex problem that's even worse, right? They need the AI to break down the complex problems, to analyze and plan the solutions for them. So they just have one job, right, which is to make sure that they have access, right, to these machines. What about character building? Okay, what happens to the character of these young adults post-secondary? Responsibility diffuses because now maybe just throughout the years they have learned that it's not about them, it's more about the tool that they use. The AI does everything for them, right? So it's not their fault if something goes wrong. it's not their fault if the climate change burns up the planet. Okay, is that how come the AI never solve it for us, right? And it's not their responsibility but the fault of the machines. Okay, accountability becomes unclear. Is it my fault? Is it AI's fault? And ethical decision making weakens, because as we have mentioned, this question of ethics don't really come into the educational process, right? So all students are concerned about is their grades, right? Problem solving. Can I write my essay? Can AI help me to do things faster? But nobody is questioning, is it an ethical way to do this, right? And if parents or even schools, right, just leave the whole educational process to the students themselves, let AI take over, right? Let AI take over the teaching. The AI is not going to incorporate ethics okay, into their decision making. So as a result, they may grow out to become young adults who are incapable of making moral decisions, right? In fact, just to share a quick short story, right? I have been working with some primary school kids, and the parents of this primary school kid is a very well-educated parent, right? Because the kid is so proud and he comes to me and say, yeah, my mother is a doctor, okay, is a doctor, right? So you would expect somebody so smart, so well-educated, right, and financially sound, right, got money and resources at her disposal to make the correct ethical decision when it comes to parenting. However, later on through the course, as we interact, we discover that this parent will lie to me, right, just in order to avoid paying for lessons, right? Because for me, I actually allow my students to not pay for lessons if they are genuinely sick. All right, so this parent just make up some excuse that the child is sick and hence they absent from the lesson and doesn't have to pay for the lesson itself. How do I know that the parent is lying? Because kids don't lie. They come to me and told me, Mr. Chow, we are not sick, right? We are actually preparing for our exam, right? But exam preparation is not a valid reason to be absent from lessons, and therefore lessons are still payable. So maybe that's why the parent decide to just lie, right? And when the kids see this type of behavior, what do you think the kids learn? The kids learn that ethics is optional, right? It's situational, right? I only use ethics as long as it's to my convenience and it benefits me. If it doesn't benefit me, then I don't need to apply ethics, right? And I think there's a very important lesson in this particular story because even the young parents these days, right, they may not apply the right ethics when it comes to parenting and educating the kids. So what happens to the next generation? All right, well, AI is not going to teach them ethics, right, if they are not asking the right questions, right? And if the parents don't do it, the teachers don't do it, the schools don't do it, then we are going to have a whole new generation that don't think about ethics at all, right? I know secondary school students, they are required to go through VIA projects where students are forced to, not forced, right? Well, in fact, I think it's mandatory that for them to go for volunteer activities, maybe go old folks home, etc. But the students' thinking is that, oh, I'm going there for the VIA points, right? I'm not going there just because of certain values that I want to learn, right? So all these different factors weakens the educational process when we are talking about ethics. So as an educator, I'm a little bit concerned, right? Because we can't have an entire generation of students who just neglect ethics and just look at the results, all right? So here are some examples, right? AI decision support systems, again, reliant on AI to decide on what to do for character building, for ethics. AI-driven hiring filters, right? Hiring filters means maybe from the perspective of the human resource, the companies hiring the students, they rely on the AI, right? But the AI doesn't factor in the the morals, the ethics of, or the character of the student, right? Maybe the AI is very good at filtering out based on academic grades, okay? And then that's what all the students will focus on, right? So that's not good, right? AI generated professional content. So this can be professional content just for the companies to market themselves as a prospective employer, but it can also be professional content in terms of the resume, right, that students submit to the companies, right? So if they are not guided by the correct ethics, what do you think they will include in their resume, right? Maybe, well, they're going to use AI to generate all these very nice, fancy looking paragraphs, but actually they cannot do any of that thing, right? They cannot function as they promise, right, in their resume. Okay, but who cares, right? No ethics. Nobody talk about that. Let's get me hired first. All right. So the implication, character becomes procedural, not personal, right? That means people follow systems and not values, right? So I think there's a pragmatic aspect of it. As young adults, they are starting to learn that they are going to have responsibilities, right? So they need to have jobs and stuff. And if what works is that cheating the system works, and they may just be very tempted to do it. And therefore, nobody is talking about values, right? Everybody is talking about, do you manage to get your job? Do you manage to pass, to clear the AI filters? Everything is about the systems, and nothing is about the values, right? And that is a worrying trend. So as young adults, talent discovery do not stop, right? Like I said, you continue to discover your talents. In fact, it's all the more important that you continue on this journey, right? Because young adults, I think there are still a lot of opportunities out there for you to discover the talents, right? But what is the impact? AI identifies market relevant skills, but suppresses unconventional talent, right? So again, what happens is, if you rely on AI to tell you what are the trendy skills to have, right? What are the in-market, in-demand skills, right? And then everybody will go and focus on those, right? I remember last time in my generation, people always think the doctors, the engineers, right? Those are the good professions, right? So as a result, everybody wants to go into, these courses, right? To be a doctor. But whether you have the talent for it, whether if you really have the genuine interest for it, that does not matter, right? Just because it's a hot job, okay? It's a really hot job that comes with a lot of prestige and social status, so people just hop onto those jobs and they ignore everything else. So the AI can do something very similar, right? And they can identify maybe cybersecurity in AI or drone aviation, something like that are in market, and people just see that these are the high paying jobs, right? And everybody will focus on AI. Everybody will focus on this drones aviation, right? And that's not a good thing, because then we overlook unconventional talents, right? That the AI may not have mentioned. All right. So here are some examples, right? AI are used for resume screening, algorithmic job matching, meaning everything is done by the algorithm. Okay. So people are writing resumes for algorithm. So they use AI to write their resumes in a way that fits the algorithm that the employers are using. So just like AI talking to AI. Okay. So they are used as skill prediction engines. So again, reliance on AI to predict what will be the high-paying jobs, maybe, right? And then what's the implication, right? And society produces very efficient workers. So we may have a workforce that are very efficient and not original thinkers, right? But in the context of Singapore, I think it's a bit dangerous, because Singapore is, well, as a country, we are prosperous, right? And why is it prosperous? It's prosperous because Singapore is built on the back of human capital, right? In other words, using our brains, our intellect, instead of relying on natural resources, which we don't have, okay? So I think for our workforce to be competitive, we cannot just be efficient, right? Because if you're talking about having efficient workers, I think other countries can do it better than us, and they're cheaper. So that makes our workforce less competitive, right? So we want to maintain that advantage that we have. We want to train our students, right, to be really creative thinkers, right, to lead the AI and not be led by AI, right? So there's a difference. Okay, this video has gone on long enough, but here is some final thoughts. These are my personal opinions on the progress of the AI, okay? I think we should still teach AI, right? But the teaching of AI should always be led by human. Don't just let the AI takes over, because like I said, there are numerous issues, right? The AI may make mistakes, right? The AI doesn't care about ethics, right? So AI doesn't care about values, right? But human-led, we can bring these human elements where the AI is severely lacking, okay? Use AI in moderation to avoid over-reliance, right? Don't just every little thing means you need to fire up the AI and solve all your problems, right? Small things, try to, just develop yourself, okay? Solve these problems on your own, right? Don't be over-reliant on the AI. Maybe for certain complex tasks, all right, you may want to use the AI to help you out in a little bit, but use it in moderation. Don't just depend on it entirely and without any human input, right? That's the point that I want to make. Always apply some form of critical thinking to any AI output that you have, right? Don't just look at the output blindly without any evaluation, without any assessment. I think that's very dangerous, right? Use human-led, again, human-led, that's the keyword, character building, right? And this should not be replaced by AI. Now, what I mean by human-led character building is a lot of times the kids learn from the adults, right? So we want to pass down the knowledge, like of values, for example. What does it really mean in terms of the behavior? And the best way to teach that is to show them that this is how we behave, right? I made this video right after Chinese New Year, and I find that I even have to demonstrate how to do a New Year greeting to my students because they just don't have this concept. They've not seen a human do it before, right? Their parents maybe don't even do it nowadays, all right? So I have to show them, okay, this is how you should greet your elders when you pay them a visit during the Chinese New Year. So this aspect itself, the human-led character, hopefully leading by example, should not be replaced by AI, okay? And finally, I think it's important to teach prioritizing the human experience instead of just optimizing for profits. Kids being kids, they don't know anything, right? So they need to be shown a lot of times, right? And as adults, I think all of us have some responsibility to show them what it means to be human, right? What is the human connection? What does that mean? Okay, what are the values and what does that mean, and so on and so forth, right? So focus and emphasize on the human experience instead of teaching them it's all about numbers and profits. So if we teach them it's all about numbers and profits, then we don't need the human anymore, right? The AI is better than us in numbers, all right? But we are the one that gives meaning to the numbers, right? It's just not about how much money you make. The money you make has to be backed by a meaningful human experience. All right, so with that, we'll come to the end of this video. So if you want to watch another one, I think I'll leave some links for you to click on screen. Thank you very much that you have joined me in this discussion. I hope you have learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.